Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Way T Lightheart from Bioptimizers with another edition of the Awesome Health Podcast. I'm excited today because we're going to talk about nootropics and brain performance. And today we have a special guest, Greg Gostincar, who is a certified brain health professional and the creator of Your Inception. He has devoted his life to helping health-conscious professionals achieve peak brain and mental performance by using effective science-based techniques combined with the power of nature. His mission is to actively educate, offer tools, and support people to unlock their true potential. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to get into this today. First and foremost, let's start with the first thing. Your site is amazing. It's called yourinception.com. If you haven't seen the site, folks, go there right away. It's very cool about designing your best nootropic stack. Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Did you get the inspiration from the movie Inception?
Of course I did.
One of my all-time favorites, right? The dream within the dream within the dream, right?
Exactly. Actually, you're the first one who asked me that, and that's where the inspiration came from.
Yeah, the two movies that I think that really impacted that was Limitless and Inception. Two movies that I know since both of those have come out, both Matt, my business partner, and myself have been deep down the rabbit hole of brain performance. But maybe you can share with people what got you into brain performance, nootropics. What's the background and the history behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, when I saw the Limitless movie, I got intrigued. I was like, there must be something like that in the market, right? Without the side effects, hopefully at least. But then after that, I was doing my master's degree at one of the best schools, universities here in Europe, in Sweden. And it was pretty tough, and at the same time, I was starting my first business, my first startup. So there was a certain moment when I was feeling like, it's just a bit too much of everything, too much stress, too many things I had to do. We were raising like $1 million basically. And, and I was 23 years old back then. So it was quite early for me. I was totally inexperienced, and then at a certain moment, I just crashed, I had this massive burnout. I didn't know it was a burnout back then. I just, I didn't know what was going on, but it was quite a severe crash. And then I started thinking like, I'm doing something wrong, obviously. And I have to find ways to boost my health, improve my health, and boost my brain performance. And then I started searching for shortcuts. I was like, maybe there's a pill out there, like a Limitless pill. Maybe there are some, have supplements, have drugs, that could be,
What direction I have on there? What was burnout for you? What was the experience like before we get into that? Yeah, because I think I want to qualify that for a second for our listeners.
Of course, yeah. So there was a moment when, I woke up and I had like no energy to basically wake up. I was just lying in my bed for a couple of weeks, honestly. I had no motivation. I had no energy. I couldn't focus, it was like I was completely empty. Yeah. So and the funny thing was like for the first couple of days, I was like, okay, maybe I'm just tired, and I need like a weekend off. But then it just keep on going, and it just didn't stop. And I was like, shit, this is real. Something is happening. So yeah, that's how it happened to me for the first time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go through that, especially if you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. Of course, here you had a startup and an education program. So then you're looking for the Limitless pill without the negative side effects. Who needs the medical issues and the gangsters and all of the stuff that was in that awesome movie. But the promise in that movie was like, work better and become a super genius or get more of it. That's exciting.
Definitely. Yeah, obviously, there was nothing like that in the market back then. But, I came across nootropics and I was like, okay, there's something here, maybe this is the way to go. Maybe this is the shortcut I was searching for. Then I came across biohacking. Before that, I didn't know what biohacking was, but then, Dave Asprey, Greenfield, and our guys. And I was like, okay, started searching for like holistical approaches to optimizing performance. I started learning about optimizing sleep and nutrition and so on. And yeah, that was that was the beginning. You know, I started experimenting with a couple of nootropics in 2015 or so. You know, nootropics were, you know, basically non-existent back then, or like the market was really small, as you probably know. I mean,
Yep.
yeah.
Matt and I started off, we were getting like piracetam and aniracetam shipped to us, and these like powders, and trying to take it. And this stuff tastes horrific. Anything that affects your brain seems to taste extremely bad for whatever reason. And we were making up caps for different things. And it was just like, it was a disaster, and very hit and miss. What were some of your early experiments?
Yeah, it was something like that. I mean, the problem was I was based in Europe, you know, so I was ordering stuff from the US, and I couldn't, you know, get them shipped to Europe. Sweden was particularly hard. You know, they stopped every shipment. Then, you know, I tried to get some stuff from China, and that was, you know, that didn't work either. So then I had to find ways, you know, to get stuff shipped to me. And you know, then I was getting like for example, I remember I was getting Nupip in those, you know, it was like white powder in those,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, there was like no name on it, and I was like, if someone stops, you know, checks the package, you know, I'll go to prison.
I know. Yeah, I can totally feel that. It's like, oh no.
Exactly. Yeah, there weren't that many resources available, and you know, I was really trying to test everything, you know, to see how those things impact me. Of course, I tried some other pre-made stacks that were available back then as well. But yeah, those early experiences were quite funny and interesting, and it was a very interesting learning curve for me as well.
What was the first thing that you started to notice? Like, what were some of the things that you started to notice and impact on your cognitive function?
Um, well, I definitely wanted to. So, what I noticed was I definitely felt more focused and more alert when I was trying certain combinations. And the cool thing was that I was able to get in the flow and stay in the flow for a longer period, which
Mhm.
was kind of my main goal, or one of my main goals. And especially because, you know, I was like, for about 8 hours per day I had to, you know, study, and I spent time at the university, and then I got back home, and I had to work on my startup, you know. So I had to work like 16 hours per day for like a couple of months actually, and I really want to stay focused, you know, when I need to be focused. I also, I mean, I started having issues with memory as well, because I had to remember so many things. Obviously it's cool, and then in the business life, it's, you know, I had to remember all those names and partners we work with and so many things. And we were actually developing a pre-advanced like GPS tracker, you know, and it was yeah, a nightmare. But yeah, I didn't really, I wasn't really able to hack my memory, at least not in a very short time, even though I hoped something was going to happen there. But yeah, focus was one thing that definitely I saw definitely improved. And then another thing was, you know, I got really anxious at certain moments.
Mhm.
I was very stressed, and you know, there was nootropics like, you know, adaptogens like ashwagandha, etc., that really helped me calm down. Not like instantly, but after, you know, taking certain nootropics for a while, then I started seeing the benefits, and yeah, that was really beneficial.
I think a lot of people underestimate the variance in nootropics. Like, so some will improve, you know, focus or flow state, but then there's other adaptogenic herbs and mushrooms and things like that, which will help, you know, clock you down or improve cognitive function or neurogenesis or things like that. So nootropics cover a wide area. So keep going on some of the other early experiments you did, because I can, it's so funny because there's a lot of history here that's similar in my own process in order to upgrade and improve my cognitive function, especially as I age. You know, it's an area that you always want to stay sharp with.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, then I started like, you know, stacking up, making different combos at home. I bought those. I know how they're called. You know, I was, you know, I bought lots of nootropics in bulk, you know, and then, you know, made those small stacks at home. that was quite a funny period, because whenever someone walked into my room, they were like wondering what the hell is happening here. you
Yeah.
know you know how it is. It was like, yeah, at certain point it was just too much. um then at the same time, I didn't really understand the mechanisms, because my background is in business, and I really wanted to, of course, as I want to be as open as possible, and I really wanted to get the effects, and I was really focused on that, like how a certain compound makes me feel, not just like when I take it for one day, but when I continue taking it for a couple of weeks, what happens after one day, 1 week, 2 weeks, and so on. But at the same time, I started like researching nootropics. I started trying to understand the mechanisms behind them, how they interact, with the knowledge I could get online, basically. I started, talking to some biochemists and neuroscientists at the same time, yeah, that actually helped me understand nootropics a bit better, and because of that, I think I made smart decisions later on. When I was designing for myself only, of course, some more advanced techs, and yeah, I think it helped me get faster to better results, basically. And I also, when I had like, quite often it happened, I had like severe nausea, or like severe headaches, for example. I was even puking sometimes. All of that stuff. And in the beginning, I didn't really know why. I couldn't figure out, like, especially when you combine a couple of nootropics together, it's like, you don't know which one is causing problems, and you don't know, is it the dosage, is it the compound, is it the combo? You know how it is. Is it
Yeah.
maybe something wrong with the compound that you got? But then later on, after like a year or 2 years of experimenting, it got like, the whole picture was more clear, and it was easier for me to find out, like, to understand what works and what doesn't work for me.
Yeah, you also listen. This is something that Matt and I both discovered early on in our journey, is that we would start experimenting first with single compounds,
Mm.
and then we start stacking compounds together, and that's when things start going. You get both better results and bigger side effects when you get it wrong.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And one of the things that we started to notice is that there were big differences in what his brain responded to what I responded to. Now, when you were doing these experiments, were you playing? Were any of your friends trying this stuff and noticing the same thing, or was this all solo?
So in the beginning, it was only me, because when I talked to people about it, they all thought I was crazy. You
Yeah.
know, so it was really hard to convince them. But then after like I think it was after like 6, 9 months, something like that. It was, yeah, so something like that. People started seeing the effects, because I was much calmer. I was way more focused. And I was talking about it all the time, because I was really excited about it, because I thought, like, there's something here, something's happening. And then there were a couple of friends that actually the co-founder of the company that we started, that we launched together. He said, like, okay, tell me what you're doing, I want to try some things. And then yeah, so I started giving him some of the stuff that I was taking. But actually I think his brain worked pretty much the same as mine. So he actually liked the same stack that I tried. So it wasn't until, like, I think 2017 or 18. So after like 2 years or so, then when I launched my blog and I started reviewing stuff, that's when people reached out to me, and then we started working, or like lots of people actually, yeah, we started working together. I started sending them different formulas, and then I started noticing some, like, people really respond differently to different stacks, different compounds, which was actually quite interesting. I mean, obviously I knew, like, we're all different, right? I mean, that wasn't a big surprise, but at the same time, I kind of thought, like, there are certain nootropics that are going to work for everyone, and I was totally wrong about that. So yeah, it got really interesting then, and I really started understanding how complex nootropics are. So when I saw, like, when first brands started to reach out to me for the reviews, and all of them had like the best stacks on the market, that's how they promoted themselves. I was like, yeah, I mean, you have a decent stack, but it's not for everyone. So show me like 2 or 3 different formulas, and then we can talk about it.
And what were some of the things that you've seen kind of across the board, though, for the most part, that you felt were solid nootropics that were making a positive effect, and what effect were you getting from them?
Yeah, so I think I got like the most. So as I said before, I was mainly taking compounds that were legal here in Europe.
Yeah,
So I mean, I was experimenting with some racetams and Nootropics and stuff, but I couldn't get them all the time. So I stick to the stuff I could get here. So I kind of get the most effects from choline, acetylcholine. I could get here alpha GPC, for example. It's still illegal in Europe, which is crazy for me, but yeah, that's how it is. Then I really liked phosphatidylserine, for example. Uridine monophosphate worked really well for me. Then like L-tyrosine, not too much, like a low dosage though. That one worked really well for me. Then some adaptogens like rhodiola, really well.
yeah,
I was experimenting a lot with Celestris paniculators. I mean, now again, it's hard to get it, but yeah. Anyway, that worked really well. What else? I mean, there are many. Bacopa monnieri. When I took it in the afternoon, for example, if I took it in the morning, it didn't work for me. Like, you know, I was kind of like too relaxed and not really motivated. But when I combine it with like maybe ashwagandha and Bacopa monnieri, that was a kind of a strong combo for me. That's really, you know, helped me calm down. And I was, you know, back then I was tracking my sleep, for example. I tried to really track everything I was doing, you know, because, you know, the subjective experience is something else and the placebo and stuff. But I started, you know, tracking my sleep first with the smartphone app, which I put on under the pillow, you know, that was like the first thing I could do. I really tried to see how those nootropics affect me. And when it comes to like sleep and then, you know, how I felt the next morning, I mean, with ashwagandha and bacopa and some magnesium, for example, and a small dosage of tryptophan, for example. I you know, I had this amazing sleep, and I really felt recovered in the morning. So yeah, so those were some of the, or most of the nootropics that had a really big impact on me. Huperzine, for example, as well. But you know, with huperzine, you need to cycle it, which I found out quite early on. So there are a couple of nootropics that I didn't take on a daily basis. I didn't want to because of the potential side effects, and you know, I started cycling them, so I took them when I needed them. And huperzine is such an example. But yeah, and there were some other nootropics that I'm still not sure if they had any effect on me, like subjectively.
yeah,
But you know, I know from the research that they are potent, they are effective. You know, like lion's mane mushroom, for example. You know,
yeah.
I mean, I've seen the research. We talked about it with our team like many times. But it's, for me, it doesn't bring any short-term effects. But I think for the long-term use, it's like one of those nootropics that I generally recommend. I think it's a really high quality one. So yeah.
Yeah, I find with lion's mane for memory, we find it's got to be a really high quality source at 3 grams per day to
Yeah.
get the effect. And the deeper your memories are impacted, the more you feel the benefits. So if you don't have that big of a memory problem, it's not as noticeable. But I can say, if you do have memory issues, I think it's great. I mean, I use lion's mane every day for that, because I generally have a good memory. But I went through a period similar to yourself where I was burning out and I couldn't remember the simplest thing. I'd be on a conversation with someone I'd known for my whole life, and I'm like, well, what's their name? And I was like, okay, this is a bad thing. Like, am I losing my brains? And lion's mane brought me back really quickly. And all of the other elements that you talked about, those are all elements that have pretty concordantly had a positive impact, if, again, quality, extraction process, and when they're delivered. Any other agents that you find have helped you when in delivering the nootropics to the brain? So it's not just what's in the cap; it's does it get into the brain matter? Have you noticed anything that you've used or to enhance the delivery?
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip: turn cultured foods into superfoods. Raw fermented foods like sauerkraut and low sugar live yogurt can be good for you, but rarely have enough of the right probiotic strains for therapeutic benefit. So here's a way that you can turn them into superfoods. What I do is I get some raw sauerkraut or a healthy yogurt. Ideally, it's grass-fed or coconut-based, and you can empty 3 caps of P3OM into a container and mix it up thoroughly. Leave it at room temperature for a couple of hours before putting it back into the fridge. And what's going to happen is these probiotic levels will be multiplied. In fact, it doubles every 20 minutes. And then what you're going to get is you're going to have a food with strong proteolytic activity. To learn more about P3OM and why its patented strains make it the strongest probiotic available, go to www.bioptimizers.com.
In terms of different agents or different compounds, well, yeah. So the thing was, when I was experimenting on my own, obviously I got the powder, I took it, then I checked if it's like a water soluble or fat soluble compound, and then I kind of calculated that and took it appropriately or in the right way. That was like kind of the things I did in the beginning. But then, when I was buying some pre-made stacks, it kind of depends what I was taking. Like, I remember, like sometimes, like if I took stuff with caffeine, I mean, for example, if I just took caffeine on its own, for example, like, I got this really strong boost of energy because I don't know why, but caffeine works really strong on me. And then, but when I took the L-theanine, of course, I didn't get the crash after. But then when I took some compounds with caffeine, some other nootropics with caffeine, I was like, okay, now I'm getting this really strong boost, but I'm really liking it. Mm-hmm. So I started figuring out, like, why is this happening? And then I talked to some other experts, like, what could be the reason, for that. So that was one thing. Of course, there were like there were some combos with GABA, for example. Some combos I remember. I don't know exactly what it was, but I know it helped cross the it helped GABA cross the blood-brain barrier. So that was something, when I took GABA on its own, nothing happened. Like, I don't know, there was like no effects. When I took it with some other compounds, I started, I definitely felt something happening. So yeah, that was kind of it in the beginning. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about you started a site. It's called Inceptioncom. And what was the genesis of that whole business model? I mean, you were doing all these different things. Why did you start Inception.com, and what's it all about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to be honest, in the beginning, the thing was I was searching for nootropics, and I wanted to learn more about them. And there were sites like Examine and many other sites where and all the PubMed and other stuff where you could get like scientific literature and trials and so on, clinical trials. But there were already some stacks on the market, that no one was talking about them, reviewing them. And for me in the beginning, like, I had no idea, like when I came across first nootropic stacks, I don't want to name them, but when I bought them and tried them, like, most of them were really crappy.
Yeah.
as you can read, I guess. Too. You see that, yeah. So that's the thing. But then I checked like some reviews, and there were like 2 reviews, for example, for one. That's it. Like, there were like very small number of reviews available. And those were like totally fake reviews. And I was like, shit, that shouldn't be that way. So my first idea was to just buy some stacks, try them for myself, and then just do short reviews, and honest reviews. That was my whole idea. And that's how I started, actually. And I was in the first couple of years, I was actually I had like, maybe I was in the beginning, I think I was the first guy who had like maybe 10 20 reviews of different nootropic supplements. And then of course others came up and were trying to compete with me. But that was the idea. Review nootropics, research them, write about that, compare them, and try to be as honest as possible. Then of course we developed and thought about different ways, and got different ideas. But in the beginning, we didn't have any goals on how to monetize it, or it was just like a random blog where I was just being honest about stuff I was trying.
Love it. I noticed on your site, one of the things that you talk about is developing your personalized kind of nootropic stack. In other words, what's going to write with that brain. How do you go through that process for people? Because I think a lot of people buy into the promise of nootropics, but like you said, you go out into the marketplace. How do I distinguish what's a good product? What's a bad product? What are the compounds that are going to give me the result that I want? And then, how do I determine what's going to be the right stack, quote unquote, because you get into stacking usually fairly early after you start experimenting with nootropics, I find with most people.
Absolutely. I think like the biggest challenge I had was that when people like were reaching out to me, they always said like, tell me what's the best tech on the market, and that's it, and give me the link, I'll buy it right away, and that's it. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, there is no best tech on the market. I mean, there is for you, but it's not like a general best tech for everyone. But everyone was searching for that, and when I was like, okay, let's go on a call, let's see, what are the problems? Maybe you don't even need nootropics, maybe, it's something else. Let's try to figure out like what's the root cause of your problems. And most people said like, no, I don't care about that, just give me this tech. And I was like, okay, so here's the link, buy something, see how it works for you. And that's it. And that was really troubling me, honestly, because I was like, this is not going to help, and I'm not helping anyone here. So what we have done in the past year or so, we have developed, or we tried to develop, and now we managed to do it, a pre-advanced brain assessment. So we worked with neuroscientists here from Slovenia. We worked with biochemists, we worked with psychologists and other people. And my idea was the following: let's develop a pretty advanced brain assessment where we can check what's happening in different brain regions, where we can kind of assume, because we cannot really measure what's happening with different neurotransmitters. And then we check, your lifestyle, how you eat, how much you sleep, etc., etc. And based on that, we get this overview, and based on that, we can kind of suggest like one or two stacks, and then tell people like, try this, see how it works for you, and if it doesn't work, okay, come back to us, we'll give you something else, and eventually we'll get towards something that's going to work for people. So that was the idea, and we are in this process now of finalizing this assessment and giving people suggestions. But yeah, as I said, we never developed our own stacks. We mainly at the end we recommend products from other brands, those products that we believe are the best for people. But yeah, we really wanted to kind of understand, kind of get the whole picture before we give any recommendations. Of course, people still reach out to us and say, okay, so give me the link to the best tech, and I don't think that's going to change. But that's part of the game, and we got used to that. So yeah, that's fine.
I love it, and it's really important for people to understand that there's a huge variance. There's a huge variance in what's going to dial things in, and then of course your lifestyle is a big factor: diet, exercise, hydration levels. Are you a fast methylator, a slow methylator of various compounds? All of these things can influence. What are some of the what should I say, other tech that you've done for brain enhancement? Like, have you measured any of this stuff with neurofeedback or things like that?
Yeah, I just actually had a session yesterday, since I mentioned it, a neurofeedback session. I've tried lots of things. I mean, mainly I'm using besides using nootropics, I try to optimize my sleep. That's where I put lots of focus on, and I work here with experts as well. I use the kind of a professional gadgets on myself, that really help me understand what I need, how can I calm down as fast as possible, and how much sleep I need to recover, and so on. Of course, I use the Oura Ring and other trackers as well, but they didn't prove to be as effective as I wanted to, at least for me. But yeah, so sleep, using the light, different types of lights at different times of day. That's super important for me to enhance my brain performance. I use various brain games, especially for memory, like the Dual M bag game. I spent lots of time, playing that game to improve my memory, because my memory. I had this brain trauma when I was a kid. I hit my head pretty badly in the back, and since then I had issues with memory, and now it's much better. So yeah, nutrition, how to eat for peak brain performance, basically how, when, exercise, that was also part of the game. And I basically, in the beginning, I was really trying to learn everything by myself. I was reading a lot and listening to the other biohackers. But then eventually I figured out like that doesn't make any sense because it's just too complex. You can try many protocols. That's what I did. Try different protocols, see how I feel. What happens. But then I just started working with different experts and try to enhance each part of my performance individually until I get to where I am at the moment.
What are some of the food, from a brain enhancement program, any foods that stand out for you, or any types of foods that you find that enhance your brain function? Like some people use ketones, some people use fats. There's also foods that can disrupt, like too much protein. If you're taking your nootropics, can throw that off. What
Exactly.
are things that you've noticed?
More than talking about specific foods, what I see is following the basic protocol in terms eating high protein breakfast or skipping breakfast. So fasting works extremely well for me. And then eating more proteins during the first part of the day and eating a high carb meal for better sleep. This is one of the first things that I learned, kind of that may work the best for most people. And I was like, okay, that's too easy to be true.
Yeah.
It sounded too easy, but it just works the best. If I eat breakfast, for example, like today, if it's a high protein breakfast with a little bit of healthy fat, I'm gonna have energy, lots of energy. I'm gonna be focused. My brain's gonna work the way it's supposed to. If I eat a high carb meal, high carb breakfast, no matter what the carbs are, it can be the best oatmeal out there, after 2 hours, I'm gonna be down. I'm gonna have brain fog. I'm gonna be tired. And it happens every single time. So this is something I experimented with the ketogenic diet. I cannot say it. It worked really well for a couple of weeks. Then I couldn't follow it anymore. Also it was my lifestyle that made things problematic. I tried plant-based vegan. Again, it was really hard to follow it, especially because I was moving a lot and lots of meetings since business lunches and stuff. And I was living in Austria. I don't know how much you know about Austria, but it's a pretty conservative country, and it was really hard back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to drink a glass of beer after every meeting. So that was part of the game, But yeah, that's what I said. Those simple hacks had the biggest impact on me. Of course, when I cut sugar, I was eating zero sugar for, I think it was 6 months. Mm-hmm. Besides the sugar you get from fruits and stuff, and I was eating a pretty low amount of fruits. And at the end of this period, I was I don't know what would be a good English expression for that, but I could honestly work for maybe 14, 16 hours without any problems. I was sleeping 6 hours per night, every single night. That's it. I didn't have to take any power naps, and it just worked. Only after I cut sugar out. And processed foods and stuff. So that had a really big impact on me. But then, when it comes to particular foods and stuff, I think we're so different that it's hard to say that, there was one food or, one type of food that had a massive impact on my performance.
So where do you see your Inception going as a future? I know you got a YouTube channel, Instagram channel, all those sort of things. What's the kind of goal and vision and mission of the company, and what you're hoping to do for the people who come to your site? And it's a pretty popular channel, so.
Yeah, we are really trying to help people boost their brain performance. That's the main goal. So if people have issues with focus, attention, stress, anxiety, sleep issues, low motivation, energy, anything that is somehow related to brain and cognition, we want to help them. And our goal is to continue partnering up with the best brands on the market that offer either nootropics or other gadgets or tools or services, basically, that are or have been proven helpful for optimizing brain performance. And what we want to do is, right now at the moment, we are developing a pretty cool algorithm so we have this assessment, and now we are developing the algorithm that is going to analyze all the data and actually suggest or actually create various protocols or step-by-step guides, basically, to optimizing brain performance. So lots of companies are focusing on developing personalized nootropics, which I think it's just amazing, like Nootopia we talk about. But what we want to do, so we want to, based on the assessment and the results, we want to give people like more. So besides the nootropics that we're going to recommend, also give more like advanced hacks to optimize brain performance. I know that people mainly search for shortcuts and for pills, and the majority of people, that's true for majority of people, but still, like, how important it is to optimize your lifestyle, not just take the right supplements. And I think those both things go hand in hand, right? So that's the idea, to have this system in place and then give those personalized plans with specific hacks that can optimize different brain regions, or can help people optimize if they have any kind of problems that we talked about before.
What do you see the future in the industry for brain enhancement? Like, where do you see the kind of like the industry as a whole in the next 10, 20 years?
That's a good one. I think, first of all, there's going to be lots of personalization. I think we're going to understand brain much better. And I think we're going to be able to create different brain types, and we're going to be able to group people by different brain types. I mean, this is already happening now, but I think in 10, 20 years, this is going to be on a much higher level. And I think we're going to be able to, or I hope so, at least, to, based on more advanced assessments that will be done online, or maybe with more advanced gadgets that people are going to use for a couple of weeks, like like trackers of different kinds. I think we're going to be able to understand, like, in detail what's happening in the brain of a person, and then I think we're going to be able to boost brain performance of an individual in a very short time with very specific hacks. So now I think we're still like in this phase where we are testing and experimenting, and giving people suggestions, and asking them, like, try it out, see what happens, and then we can optimize that. But I think, like, in 20 years, I think this process is going to be much shorter and way more accurate. So this is like in terms of enhancement. Of course, the big question is what's going to happen in terms of prevention of cognitive decline, and what we're going to do here. How we're going to teach people to optimize their lifestyle before actually they have any cognitive issues. That's something I'm really passionate about, because once you have problems, like you said before, you had burnout, right? I mean, once you're burnout, I mean, it's a bit too late, right? I mean, of course you can recover, but it's going to take a couple of weeks, and it's a difficult process. Or months, exactly, yeah, exactly. And it can be a really hard period of your life, and but I think we can prevent it. It's not like I think it's totally preventable. So I think that's we should put a lot of focus on that in the next years. Yeah. somehow find a way to motivate people to change certain things before it's too late, which I think is a big challenge for all of us.
Of course. I love it. Can you share with people where your website, your Instagram handles, YouTube, all that sort of stuff? We'll put them in the show notes, but you can give a shout out for that so people can find you and go to your site. It's an awesome site, by the way. It looks some great info. I loved it. And I suggest everyone go check it out.
Thanks. Yeah. People can go on Inceptioncom, YouTube channel, Instagram, and so on. Also, just check for Your Inception. They're gonna find me there. And if anyone has any questions, I'm always available. So.
I love it. Thanks so much, Greg, for joining us today. And for all our listeners, you saw it, you heard it. It's the website, Inceptioncom. There will be, he's going to be reviewing Nootopia, it's a brand of Bioptimizers, very soon. So I'm looking forward to that review and putting ourselves up against all the other reviews up there. Check them all out. And, we always suggest experiment, test, be responsible, but be open, and you might just find that you're going to unlock your next level of brain cognitive capacity. Thanks so much for joining us this week. We really appreciate it. I'm WT Lightheart from Bioptimizers. I want to thank Greg for joining us today, and we want to thank you for listening. If you like it, smash the like button, do a share, and of course, give us your comments, your feedbacks. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
The Bioptimizer mission is to help more of the world fix their digestion at a core level. The truth is, your digestion is only as good as your enzyme levels. Imagine trying to build a house with a tree. It's impossible. You need to chop the tree down into small pieces. Similarly, in order for your food to be used by your body, it must be broken down into a bioavailable form. And that's what enzymes do, converting protein into amino acids, fats into specific fatty acids, and carbohydrates into usable energy units. We start out with an abundance of enzymes, and that's why kids can digest just about anything really quickly. The thing is cooking food kills enzymes, as they cannot survive at temperatures above 118 degrees. So years of this ends up depleting our bodies and leads to weak digestion. Taking digestive enzymes like masszymes, which has an incredibly high level of protease for digesting protein, as well as other critical enzymes like lipase, amylase, and others, is a total game changer. Suddenly, you strengthen your digestion, eliminate gas and bloating, boost metabolism, and multiply your energy. Most importantly, you fix your digestion at a core level. To get started with masszymes and to save 10% on your first order, go to masszymes.com. That's MASSZYMES.com and use the code MASS10, MASS10.
Thank you for listening to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. You can find more information at bioptimizers.com.